Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. All week long, we have been making our way along with the Hebrew people after the Exodus and on the way to the Promised Land. Before I go any further, let me mention something you may have noticed. I've been calling them the Hebrew people rather than Israel. The reason for that is that at this point, all they really are is a people. They haven't been established as a nation yet. So yesterday we discussed how Moses was on the mountain with God giving the Ten Commandments and other ordinances for a long, long time, and the people lost hope and faith while he was gone and had Aaron make them a golden calf to worship. How do you suppose God reacted to that? Well, when the next chapter begins, God tells them to leave and go on up to the land he had promised them, but they would go without God. If God were along, they are told, God just might consume them out of wrath as they went. By the way, he called them stiff-necked again, and this time they knew it was true. Dejected, the people clearly made signs of repentance, and they implored Moses to speak to God on their behalf. Moses did, reminding God that God had chosen this people, and that Moses at least had found favor in God's sight. Moses asked God to be true to that, and to spare the people for the favor God had shown in choosing them. And God agreed. But that didn't end the matter. You see, by now we might have a greater sense of mercy and patience of God as God deals with this stiff-necked and stubborn people. And that might give us hope as God deals with us. Moses, however, is a different matter. By this time, he's had just about enough of all these fickle people with their constant bickering and complaining and forsaking God. He is fed up with leading this people, and so Moses said to God, "Show me your glory, I pray." What Moses is asking for is to see God's face. He wants his own faith rekindled and reinvigorated. He needs a vision of God so that he will be renewed in faith to continue leading this stubborn crowd who so easily forgets what God and Moses have done for them. We may have had times when we felt the same. However, God tells Moses that no one can see God's face and live. And instead, God offers an alternative plan. God says, "Look, you stand right there on that rock, and when I begin to pass by, you go in that cleft in the rock. I will put my hand over it until I have passed by, and then I will remove my hand, and you can look at my back." And that's exactly what they do. And Moses' faith is rekindled, and he continues to lead the people. Now, that's an odd story, one you likely haven't heard before. If you're interested in reading it, you do find it at the end of Exodus 33. The thing is, when I'm counseling people, I use this story from the Bible probably more often than any other. You see, many times people in trouble, people with problems, or who find themselves in a crisis, have a deeper problem that they hadn't even realized. Often, not only are they in crisis, but they often feel that they need to see God, and they can't. Now, one of the ways I think about that a lot is that in the midst of crisis, our eyes are filled only with the crisis, so that's all we see. We can't see God because we are so caught up in the crisis. Part of how I try to help them is to give them the assurance that even though they may be unable to see God with them, that God is with them and has been all along. That's when I tell this story, to show them that often in our lives we can't see God coming. But when things are over, we can see that God has been there and God has passed by. We are not abandoned or forsaken. Even in our obsession with our crisis, God is with us. Later, when we look back, we can see that God was with us all along. That's what Moses knew when he saw God's back. Moses knew that God was and is with him and fills his faith. And Moses found his faith reignited, and he was ready again to lead this stubborn and stiff-necked people whom God has chosen. This is an important story, one that can bring us much assurance, comfort, and hope. God is with us. Look for God's back. You will know that God has been with you all along. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.